Today we have one of my favorite people in the world, Mr. Atticus.
Hey, so glad to be here. So glad to be here. Proud of you. This is dope. This is dope.
Thank, thank you so much for being here. Like, I really appreciate you. We've known each other since high school, and
Oh
I'm just
yeah.
so happy and proud of the fact that we still have maintained this friendship for all these years. So
Oh
I'm
yeah. Whole team. Whole team. Whole team. Yeah.
so yeah.
It's
Go ahead.
it's good. It's good to see. I mean, it's good to see. It's good to see. One, it's always good to see our classmates or anybody that we grew up with still up, still shining, still doing their thing, still growing, in whatever venture they chose to do. But I'm gonna be a little biased. I'm so glad that yours is so knee deep in the arts and that you're representing for so many different disciplines. So I'm proud of that.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It means a lot, definitely coming from you because you are what I call a jack of all trades. You
Okay.
pretty much mastered a lot of them, right? So, but let's go ahead and
Ooh.
talk about who you are. Tell us about yourself and what you do.
Oh yeah. Well, I am my government name. I'm Joseph Woods. I am from East Knoxville, Tennessee, Park City area. Road runners in a
Yes.
building. But my over the years, I have grown into somewhat of a writer, in some form, but more so a spoken word, a wordsmith. And that shows up as a songwriter, as a hip hop MC, and as a slam poet, for the most part. Little bit of public speaking. I mean, it all involves that somehow. But yeah, that's how I usually identify. I do have grown to the point where I accept that I am a voice for my community through this artistry, and that the community has deemed me so over the years, and has requested me and to express what they need said through this art form. So that's giving the work a little bit more purpose. So yeah, that's about it in a nutshell without going too far into it.
Okay. So, how did you get started?
Oh man, really, really, I guess like most folk, just the music I heard, the music I heard growing up in the house. I'd say the first hip hop junkie I ever met was my mother. She was a teacher at Sylmar Green. Her and some parents at her the parents in the PTA. They're actually the ones that got the carnival started that they do every year. They got that started back in the '80s. And even though she was a soul child, both my parents were soul children. A lot of soul records, a lot of Earth, Wind and Fire, a lot of James Brown, all that good stuff was playing in the house. But she was the one that always wanted to make sure that she stayed abreast onto what Black music was doing and where it was progressing towards. So she actually jumped on the hip hop movement when it first started. She really, really loved the Beastie Boys. She really liked Fresh Prince, Jazzy Jeff, and so I'd wake up hearing JJ Fast, Supersonic. I wake up hearing Brass Monkey. It would wake us up. And yeah, so and that was my first introduction to it, and so it just kind of infected me, right? And but as far as lyricism goes, um, I say me and my one of my best friends growing up in high school, Aaron and Frankie Brown, we would man we walk the neighborhood, being knuckleheads or whatever, man. But we get to freestyling, we get to reciting the rhymes we love the most, and I know me and Aaron did that a lot. We was really addicted to Redman and Method Man's How High Track. Man, we knew all the words. We knew all the words. We walked on the block to store it. And before I knew it, I was freestyling. But as far as like getting into it consciously, purposely, because art for me showed up initially, creativity showed up for me initially as an illustrator. Right, drawing was the first thing that came to me, and then like words came in when I started wanting to make my own comic books. So words were there, but as far as saying it out loud, that's how it started. Just rhyming and freestyling. Before I knew it, by the time I hit college, I was too intrigued by open mic culture. Right, I got to Miles College after we graduated in '98. I want to say spring of '99. I got introduced to open mic cipher. A spot was actually called the Cipher. It was like just around the corner from the campus. As freshmen, we weren't allowed to have cars, so we walked down to the Cipher, which was literally like a little house that some young Black couple had gutted their living room out, put a stage in there, and made a space for voices. And I remember getting in there and just I was hooked ever since. I was hooked. I think one of the first groups of poets I ever saw was a group called Infinite Currents. That was in Fairfield, Alabama, just outside of Birmingham. And yeah, I was hooked ever since. I was like, oh, I gotta do this. I gotta do this. And then when I came back from college, I'm already writing. I'm already writing. I actually got kicked out of I got so far into poetry, I got kicked out of college for poetry.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah, I got kicked. I got so far into the word, I got kicked out of it. Which may be a whole nother story, but yeah. Came back to Knoxville, got and linked up with Carpetback Theater. And just for just trying to get some college credits, work study or whatever. And that was one of the options. It sounded cooler than the rest of it. I was like, I ain't doing no science lab. So let me try to steer the thing out. Probably the best choice I ever made. Getting to meet Linda Paris Bailey, getting to meet Margot Miller, getting to meet, actually at that time a young courageous young Jonathan Clark, who is now currently the standing director of Carpetback Theater. But we were there, and she gave us the first platform where it was first youth led open mic in the city. It was called Cafe Noir.
Yeah.
And yeah, I got that's the first time getting the host and just do yeah, I don't know, it just kind of grew. It kind of grew. And but I remember you ever heard of Highlander, the Highlander Research Education Center?
I have
Oh, it's a
not.
legacy organization. Oh, it's a legacy organization just outside of Knox County lines. I want to say it's Jefferson County. But anyway, you go down Asheville Highway and keep going. Just keep going to get real country. But yeah, we got out there, and Linda had us going up there. And I think it was the first time I saw a young lady, because Highlander has this like real famous room. It's just it's like this circular round house, and inside of it is this huge round rug and nothing but like these classic rocking chairs all around it, right? It's a classic, it's a very famous room they have. And we're sitting in that room for the first time, and this young lady gets up and she does this thing that wasn't rapping, but it was flowing, right? It was poetry, but it wasn't Your Roses Are Red, Violets Are Blue. And I was like, what the hell is this? It was cooler than the stuff I was hearing down in Birmingham. It was cooler than anything I was doing on the mic. I was like, what is that? That was my first taste of spoken word slam poetry style, like slam style. So yeah, that I was hooked. I was hooked. I was hooked. And I think that's really how it starts with most art, right? You just like it so much, you get obsessed.
Right. And you can definitely feel that energy. You can feel that passion that you have. I remember when I was living in Knoxville, I would come to the poetry slams and I see you, I see Courageous, I see so many people, and you guys would get up there and do your thing. It was very inspiring. It was just amazing. And that's
Oh
one of the
yeah.
things that I like the most about you is like your energy. You're always high energy. You can always feel you just seem like you're passionate about whatever you're doing at that time. You know what I mean? I think that's cool.
Oh
So
yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah. So tell
Oh
us
yeah.
about your process when you get ready to make music or just
Ooh.
art in general.
Oh well. It shows up in different ways. With music, it really depends on if I'm featuring with somebody else, which means they already have the idea, right? Like whoever has the initial, spark of inspiration, right? And so writing songs for usually features are a lot easier for me than starting from scratch, making it myself. Not because anything other than I may be overthinking my own work.
Okay.
Right. But if they already got a clear trajectory, like all I want you to do is this, like right now, my cousin Bush, he's definitely in his creative bag right now. He's on the second album of a three-part trilogy called Full Beard. And but on the first album, we got a song called Dreaming of Sideburns. And he swears to this day it's one of the best rhymes. My feature was on one of the best rhymes. And it was super easy for me to write because he already had a full scale vision for it. Right. I was like, oh, all I gotta do is talk about this. Oh, no problem. you know. And that whole verse is just about, the struggles of being poor and like wearing fake tennis shoes and like, kids cracking on you. The whole verse. And it's so easily to relate. So that was like I probably whipped that up. I probably whipped that up in maybe about an hour if it took me that long to write it. I don't know. But to write it, recite it, get on the mic and lay it down way faster. Right. And then so when when it comes to my own work, I'm just like any other artist. I'm always trying to make sure that I'm that I'm pushing myself and I'm doing better than the last project.
Okay.
So I put more pressure on myself, right? Um, but it varies. It varies. I do. I think I've been writing songs long enough, and I've been blessed enough to have enough producers and even get into production myself to where, um, you know, you could. I put it like this. There's no such thing to me as writer's block,
Okay.
right? That doesn't exist, right? And I think I got that from a workshop that I listening to brother Ed Mabry. Shout out to Ed Mabry. But he's like, there's no such thing as writer's block. There's what you want to write and what you're supposed to write. And so with songwriting, I think, you might be like, oh man, I'm gonna write this cool ass rhyme, boom, boom, boom. But you ain't feeling it right now,
Mm.
right? Say you want to write a song about, I don't know, the black plight. But maybe it's time for you to write a song about love.
Okay.
So I'll just go through instrumentals and I'll wait until something just hits me at that moment. And it's so easy. That's when I know it's the one. Oh, it's so easy to write to this right now. Let's go. Right.
Right.
Or yeah.
So
I
I
hope
was
that answers your question.
no, I was going to ask you that kind of led into the next question I was going to ask, which was, do you ever get stuck in the middle of a flow? But it just sounds like you hopped on the, I don't know, the inspiration and just kind of like you wrote it out, kind of like literally
Yeah.
surfing.
Yeah. 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 I say the only time I get stuck is when I have to write about something.
Okay.
Like if I have to write about something and it's just not in the cards right now, life's happening and I just can't focus on the song. There's days like that where I can't even focus on trying to be creative.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about that. Let's talk about that process because that's the part that kind of like that goes in with the um the show topic, so flowing. And it kind of like starts off from, well, it was born out of the feeling of stagnation, you know what I mean? And I know that a lot of artists, we go through that. Sometimes things happen in our lives that make us stuck. Sometimes it's
Yes.
just us creating this particular piece of art, like you said, we're trying to force something when it's really not time to do that. So uh
Hmm.
let's talk about that. You said you created a process that keeps you from getting stuck. Can you talk?
Yeah. Yeah. Once you start, there's a famous quote. Let's see, there's two of them actually. One's like still like an artist, right? And you know, if what that really means is that, and another one about I think Pablo Picasso was like art inspires art. Something simple as that, right? As creatives, creativity has to be inspired. So as I grew into recognizing and identifying, like, okay, I am a creative, right? I am an artist. I'm an artist, right? Anytime you put "ist" on the end of anything, scientist, that means that you are a specialist, right? That you have a particular honed in skill set on something. So when you're an artist, we all create, but some of us are really driven to do so more purposefully. So it's always good to have some type of process that keeps you inspired. And I know a lot of artists are in their budding phase, they don't recognize exactly how much that works. Like a lot of the dope hip hop stuff I make isn't because I listen to more hip hop. Sometimes I have to find out I need to listen to, I don't know, some R&B. I need to go listen to some classical. I need to go listen to some trip hop. I need to go listen to some, country folk. You know what I mean? And or maybe I need to go look at a painting or some weird mixed media art, right? A canvas with a dot in the middle that costs $3,000 and try to fill them. How they charge $3,000 for this? You know what I mean? Like whatever it is, right? It's like we absolutely have to be inspired, and it can be simple as stepping outside, what they call it, green bath, walking through a little forest or whatever, get you some greenery, put your feet in some water, whatever it is. You have to be inspired in order to do what you're doing at a high rate,
Yes.
right? Yeah, at a high rate, it's a combination of inspiration and it's also a combination of discipline. So I have learned at times too is that I don't wait for the muse.
Okay.
I don't necessarily wait for inspiration. I just start working. I make more work than I ever put out. I don't like everything I make, right? But I do like that I keep making.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So my next question is, staying on the topic of getting stuck. Sometimes we get stuck in our creativity. Sometimes we get stuck in our art projects. And as artists, like you said, artists are people, and we have lives. And do you ever get stuck in life in general?
Oh, big time, big time, big time. And um, it's a my one mentor, Linda Paris Bailey, told me years ago, life is an eternal quest for balance. That was one of the best quotes I ever heard from her. I'm not sure if she got it from somebody else, but she shared it with me. So I give her credit for that one. But yeah, life is an eternal quest for balance. So like finding balance between, it's not just for art, you know, just like, between work and keeping some money going and, giving your craft the time that it needs, respecting, what truly harnesses and brings the the best out of your work, right? So I have gotten to where it's like, say, oh, I'm gonna do an album. Man, last time I finished one, it took so much more time, and I really had to get into a space of just obsessing over it. And because I mean, I think where it's like it's hard to. That's another quote. I love my quotes. Ex of mine, Magneta Black, she said that it's hard to be the wind behind your own sail. And so, as an artist, especially if you're trying to push into going pro, which is not just amateur, not just doing it for the love, but really trying to get to where it's actually sustaining you. You have to give this just as much dedication and time as you would a 9 to 5, right? Um, no one's expecting your work, whether you're painting or sculpting or doing an album. Nobody's waiting on your album. What I mean? Nobody's you know,
Checking for you.
yeah, nobody's checking for it like that. And yeah, it's cool. It's a good space to be in, So when you put your work out, they respond. That's what it is. But yeah, I know myself personally. It's hard to be everything, especially as like a lot of these indie artists. It's hard to be the writer, the director, the engineer, the songwriter, the performer, and then turn around and finish your album and then do the marketing and then do the campaign and then
Yeah.
do that thing most people hate. I hate writing my own bios. Not a fan of talking about myself. Like I've done this and this, I can't stand that. But it's all a part of the growth process. So yeah, I definitely get stagnant in life. Life gets in the way sometimes. Relationships gotten in the way, um, and I just had to realize that even okay, personally, yeah, when I say relationships, I'd actually stop doing my art. Thinking, oh well, I need to make sure I'm here, and I need to make sure that we eat all our meals together, and whatever you feel like is going to keep this thing happy. But I'm also realized that like, well, what drew them to me, whatever was I was doing my thing,
Mm.
and it's not a requirement that they um fulfill that void for me. So
Because they
you
can't.
have to ask yourself, well, yeah, you can't. They can't. And then at the same time, it's like if you're not doing your thing, if you're not doing like if you're not living in your purpose, if you're not serving your purpose, if you're not taking your God-given talent, your talent, and you are not harnessing it, being stewards of that talent, then when it comes to your life, whether it's your team, your coworkers, your partner, who are you bringing to the table? You know what I mean? Anytime I spend a year or two, trying to please anything other than what my purpose requires of me, then I wasn't being 100%. I wasn't bringing 100% to any circle um that I was participating in.
Yeah. Man, that's deep. I really love that part. I was actually just jotting down my notes right now. You said, "Who are you bringing to the table?" I love that, and
Yeah.
I'm a fan of asking myself questions to make myself think on a deeper level, and that's a wonderful question to ask. Who are you bringing to the table? Are these people coming along to be the wind in yourselves? Because you know a lot of times that's what we need. We need the support of our friends and our loved ones. So yeah. Um, my next question.
Oh, oh.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Actually, I like to add on to that. I would that's a double-edged sword. I would say that it helps if you got support from your if your loved ones and everything. I would still urge artists to understand that it's not a requirement though.
Mm.
It's not a requirement. Some of the closest people to me have never been to any of my shows. Some of the closest people that I love dearly, who love me dearly, don't bump my music, and that's not a requirement,
Okay.
you know. And I would urge artists, if you are expecting that, just stop. Stop. I mean, like, your work pulls in the tribe it's supposed to. The people who really rock with my sound, rock with my music, rock with my thing, whatever. It's cool. We cool. And sometimes some really great friendships come out of that. But I don't put that pressure on my loved ones. Like, hey, listen to my stuff. I used to when I first started rhyming and rapping, I used to bug my brother with every rhyme I had. I used to bug that. He used to hate that. Man. He's like, not another rhyme. You know. But I was still forming. But it's just part of the journey. I do feel like, it's your responsibility as an artist to hone your own craft, to put your work out, and hopefully reach a real balance with yourself. Where it's like, because artists can get sensitive
Mm. Yeah.
about their work, right? Everybody knows Badu's,
Yeah.
I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my shit, whatever, right? So my thing is like it helps us to not be that sensitive, like really get to a point where I put some stuff out and people, oh, I love it. All right, cool. I can't stand it. All right, cool. It's the same. It doesn't matter. It exists.
Mm.
It's here, and I can't say that. Probably the most beautiful thing as far as art forms go is I love poetry slam. I love poetry slam because what it does is, for those who don't know what it is, it's a spoken word competition. Poets get 3 minutes and 10 seconds to say what they got to say and get off stage. They're judged by five random people in the audience. And I mean, I love the art form because we're audaciously judging art. And you're being judged by people who more than likely can't even do what you do. But their opinion matters because it's still the human experience, and does your work actually connect? So it kind of puts you out there and it makes you do it. But what I say is that with those five scores, we we drop the high and we drop the low, and we average the three in the middle, get our score. But those who slam know that the highest score and the lowest score means those are the two people who were most moved, right? So whether you love it or hate it, are you moved? Cool, right? And it really I think that has absolutely helped me get to a comfortable space with my own art. Um, I mean, I hope you like it, but not so much that I won't make it anymore if you don't like it. You know what
Right.
I mean? I won't keep making this one thing because you do love it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I won't keep going with the flow,
Yeah.
right? Right.
That was perfect. Yeah, that was really good. Um,
Thank you.
so what advice do you give to any artists out there? Now, of course, we're not medical professionals or psychologists or psychiatrists, but we do have, or you do have experience in, you know, being an artist, feeling stuck. So what advice do you give to any artists out there who may be experiencing that?
Oh man. Well, yeah, I would advise, like, got a poet, to real person. She got a quote. She says, "Do your art shit," and like do it. And then like, I don't know. Let's say you are a painter. You're a painter, right? And you stay in a little small apartment. You don't really have a place to make a mess. Then you need to like get real serious about, okay, maybe there's a public space. Maybe there's whatever. Maybe they get my bread up and get a space for the garage. Whatever it is you got to do to make room for your work, your art will let you know what it needs to be more present in your life. And at the same time, you got to respect what that takes. And like, we won't always get ideal situations when we start. We when we started recording music, it was literally like the cheapest equipment. It wasn't $1 million studio. It wasn't this, that, and the other. And we still made it work. We made it work. We put it out, and you know, um, even if it didn't top the charts, we still grew as artists. So like, I guess it's like, yeah, just make sure you keep doing it. And that'll show you stuff like whether you need to cut certain people out your life. That's why I don't really like to base your creativity on family and friends, because if you got negative people, if you got dream killers in your life, you know what I mean? They just, you know, I've definitely gotten to a point in my world. I would suggest this. I would suggest this. I would suggest every artist or anybody listening to this podcast to recognize that there's an art to everything. There's an art to being a good friend, art to being a good mother. There's an art to being to showing up. There's an art to staying, on time. So everything really is an art. But as far as those that for the art for the disciplines that we recognize, culinary arts, dancing, movement, the arts, those art forms. What I would say is that read a book called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. After reading this book, I have gotten to a point now where, let's say it's a close friend of mine, and like they hating, they don't like it, whatever. I've learned to stop looking at that person personally and understand that what's actually happening is I'm on a journey and I'm being met with resistance, and resistance is going to get to you no matter who it comes to. Especially if it comes to somebody that you love or whose opinion that you sincerely care about. Um, know that negativity wouldn't be here if you weren't doing something, right? If you were just, milling around, just kind of BS and whatever. Hey, what you up to? I mean, nothing. What you doing? I'm nothing. You wouldn't get any resistance for doing nothing. You might even get support,
Yes.
right? So, so sometimes the only sign that you have that you are on the right path is in the unnecessary levels of hate. Like, oh man, they hate, or oh man, they didn't even show up. They ain't even come through. Fine, fine, that's cool. Somebody else is going to show up, right? I got people who are not. I've never sat in their living room. They never sat in my living room, but they know all the words to half my songs. They know, which is good. You want to get to that point. You want your art to get out there and affect people, kind of like throwing a rock in a river or something, right? When it ripples out, you don't get to see where all the ripples go. You don't get to see where all the ripples, you know, where they go, who they touch.
Yes.
Same thing with your work. You're not going to be privy to know, how far it goes. And that's not your job. Your job is just to be a steward to your craft, complete, and then get to a point of high output. Put work out.
Man, that is
Yeah.
beautiful. That is beautiful. That is perfect advice. Definitely.
Thank you.
Um, so I still feel that. Like it's taking me a minute. Like give me it
Ah!
made me emotional because it's real. That's
Ah!
true. That's good
I mean,
advice.
yeah, you're asking great questions.
So now when you create, do you ever experience the flow state? And do you and just to talk about what is the flow state? The flow state, in my opinion,
Mm,
when you are creating and you no longer are thinking about what you're creating, what you're saying, what the movements that you're making, you're just making it. And it feels like it's coming, well, for me, it feels like it's coming through me instead of to me. Does that make sense?
mm, absolutely, absolutely. I definitely get to flow states. I definitely, I love that. I love that feeling. What happens? I think when you're first starting off, let's take rapping in particular. Rapping. From my observation, rappers start one of two ways. Um, you either start off writing or you start off freestyling, right? And the goal the goal is to get to the point where we can't tell if you do which one is which. We can't tell if you wrote it or if you freestyled it. Like that's the goal. But in the meantime, like I imagine it goes for all art forms that you start off kind of mimicking what you're influenced by. I know when it comes to like say music, our first, I mean, like hands down, our first 4 years when I was with the group Fluid Engineers, we kept getting compared to, oh man, y'all sound like Tribe, or y'all sound like, y'all sound like fill in the blank. And then as we kept going, or as I kept going with the music, people stopped saying who I sound like. I started using other words to describe, like, oh man, that song made me feel high, or oh man, I can't believe somebody else, man, they made me feel understood. Like the definition changes as I got away from mimicking what I wanted to sound like, which is euphoric. It feels good, that's a good meter, but eventually growing into where now you have your voice, you have your sound, or you have like your style, right? And that takes time. For me, when I right now, like when I feel the flow state, I feel like uh the feeling I get inside is like, oh man, I nailed something that was so intangible, which is a feeling,
Mhm.
right? I nailed a feeling. Oh, I nailed it down, right? And when we first start, say the say like one of my producers drop like a dope beat or give me some crazy ass composition to write to. I feel the vibe. I feel where they're going. Or even if I make some point is that it starts off literally as a feeling. I don't know exactly what the words are going to be, right? And then all I know is that when I hit it, and when I say you're really in a flow state, nothing else matters. You're not worried about, brother, cousin. You're not worried about bills. You're not worried about anything. You're absolutely hyper laser focused on this frequency that you are now trapped in. And it feels like discovery. Like I'll literally go, oh, whoa, right? We do it all the time, man. Like, we'll stop the session sometimes. Like, what? And if you nail it, I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna tell you, like, I'm gonna need you to stop, find a corner, give me 5 minutes. So don't just think about what you're doing. Just think about you. We love that feeling. Like it's a high.
Yes,
It's a
definitely.
high. It's a high. Like, oh man, like so like I'm fascinated by other crafts, right? Like I know, like I said, visual, which for me was like illustrating, and mainly I was drawing comic books, right? But when it comes to, like, say, painters, and especially if your style of painting is highly detailed, right? I'm always fascinated by, like, how do you know when to just stop, right? How do you know? How do you know? Like, you're painting this thing, yeah, right? I saw this dude's work the other day. He does, like, I think it's called pointillism. Like the whole drawing is just a gang of dots. Y'all, like, how do you know it's the last dot, bro? Like, how do you know? How do you know? You know, that's mind
The,
blowing.
there's a quote by a famous artist. I forget who it was, but he said that a painting is never finished; it's only abandoned. So
What's gangster? Oh, painting is never finished. It's only abandoned. Oh, that's just wrong. It's so cold. It's so cold. And maybe that is. Maybe that is. I mean, I do have work that I put a lot into. Like, I spend a lot of energy into it. And you know, uh, let's say I think poetry may be the only art form that I really don't need a collaboration with. But with music, uh, yeah, I lay my thing down, I do my thing. But if it's gonna be transferred to live, then I need the band to do their interpretation, or if we're gonna do or even studio recording, the engineers gotta touch it. And like I've had a lot of songs I've made I couldn't stand until after they did their final mix, right? And they put their little touch on it. And they're like, oh, okay, now it sounds like how I was hearing, and let's not forget, like, sometimes you just have happy accidents,
mhm,
right? Which come out way doper than whatever you thought you were initially planning. Like, that's why I always say we're stewards of the gift. You don't sincerely own it, right? It's just you just got it. It's on loan to you right now, right? So yeah, I don't. Oh man, I love that feeling. I love that feeling. Yeah, definitely. Flow is something I find myself chasing
yes,
all the time, all the time, all the time. But I am at a point in my life now, with art, where I I don't wait for the muse. I don't suggest, chasing that high. I don't suggest getting high just to make art either. Like, I know some people, like, they say that's their thing, but it ends up being a major crutch, and it won't help you sustain. Like, I don't know. Let's say Friday night you killed it, nailed it. Like, song was crazy, you was in the vibe, you was in. And then come Saturday or Sunday, you can't do it. Now, if you get all frustrated, and then you don't come back to it, right? Like one thing in particular, especially with musicians, right? I ask them all the time, yo, how long you been playing? They be like, oh, I've been playing for 8 years. No, you haven't. No, you haven't. You started 8 years ago. Then the guitar sat in your closet for about 2 years. Then you picked it back up, right? You didn't literally, because you would be a master.
Mhm.
You'd be a master if you stayed on something for 8 years. You'd be great, right? So yeah, like those stagnant, oh, it wasn't as dope as that last time. I didn't get that same feel. That's why I gotta keep going. You gotta just keep doing your thing, right?
Yes. So I want to talk about something that you mentioned earlier, where you said you nailed a feeling when you were creating, and that was like a really big high experience. What is your? Do you have a mission when you are creating your music? Do you start out and say, I'm going to create music and I want people to feel this way? Or is it more of like, I have this inside of me and I need to get it out?
Wow, wow. A bit of both. It's a bit of both. I think initially, one of my goals was to get to the point where, oh man, I want to be able to hang with my heroes, right? Most Def, Quali, um, MF Doom. Like I want to be able to hang with my heroes and, Andre 3000.
Yes.
And then like that was a benchmark. And then it transformed, once I got to that goal, like, okay, I currently do out rap half of my heroes. Like I can literally do that. Kudos. But now I got to where it's like I think about this is a great name for legacy. I think about what is the work gonna do when I'm dead and gone? What am I leaving behind? Um I want to share so many things. Like I want to share, how good music makes me feel. Or I want to share how sad I am that day, or I want to share, that it's okay. Because I mean, I don't care how far into the future we get, it's still the human experience. And if I can be moved by a Donny Hathaway song, and Donnie's been dead how long?
Many years.
James, right? Uh, uh, people have put work out that still resonates. I mean, Bob Marley is gaining a new fan
Yeah.
right now as we speak. And so, yeah, like the recognizing that you're possibly in a position where your work can transcend yourself. So, yeah, like I'm aiming sometimes just to share the sound like that my soul hears right now. However it comes out. You know, I may wish some days I could sing, like such and such, or whatever. That's not how it works. That's what I got. So I'm pushing for it. I'm pushing for it. And so like right now, inspiring people and healing. I did bother to. I suggest every artist definitely bother to figure out your why. And I know that when I look over the body of my work, my why is I want to build healthy bridges between the mind and the soul. Right. So if I could pull that off, then I did my job.
Okay.
'Cause
Oh,
yeah,
I heard a artist say a couple of months ago during an interview that rap, he said in his opinion that rap is the only genre of art where once the artists get old, people no longer feel like that person is relevant. You want to talk about that?
absolutely, absolutely. It's a very I mean, rap is also the only truly completely all American sound, like completely started in America, and then, it's the only completely American sound, and so it's also the strongest sound. If you look at it statistically, if you look at it worldwide, if you look at it as, we realize that um, music, period, is still the largest import out of America. So I bring that up because this is where the stage between, you know, uh, what artists are being respected and which ones aren't. And so, yeah, I feel like that's only because there's a very sincere attack on hip hop because it is such a powerful art form. I feel like hip hop artists, especially rappers or whatever, are probably the toughest songwriters when you look at the volume of lyrics and words we have to write per capita. It is a shame that um, Other genres don't have that issue, right? Ozzy's still running around singing,
Right.
right? We just had Paul McCartney come to Knoxville. He was doing this thing, he got the Rockets and the Light Show. It is it's the only genre that is struggling to grow up.
Mm,
Um, Gladly to see that it is finally starting to grow up. I mean, Fetty Wap didn't even come out until I think he was like 42.
okay.
Um, but look at how he had to do it. He still had to give a lot of young man look, vibe, aesthetic. And so, yeah, I am of the belief that it's okay for hip hop to grow up, and it needs to grow up, just like every other genre is allowed to grow up. And I mean, hell, we got a whole generation, the Zennials. We're here now, and you know, the music and the sound we grew up to, we gonna be flowing. Man, yeah, we're gonna be rapping, we're gonna be flowing at the senior homes. So it's just a matter of like, yeah, allowing it to grow up,
Yeah,
so be it. But yeah.
yeah. And I think, thinking about it being, this year itself being the 50th anniversary of hip hop, that is still young, even though, technically, I guess when you're talking about like teenagers, they think 50 is old, but, the closer you get to 50, the less old it seems. But
Mhm.
50 is not old in most any other art form. The longer that you've practiced something, the more revered you are, the better you are because you've had the most experience in it. So what makes me sad is that the new artists don't really seem to look to the older artists when it comes to hip hop to use those people as mentors, to help their craft, to help their craft be more relevant to the human experience. Like you were saying, like I feel like that's what art is when you can when your art relates to the human experience. So why not? And I think that the older artists who are out there, the ones who've been, in the game for a long period of time, I feel like that um I feel like if they really care about their craft, I feel like if they really care about their craft, they should teach. And how else will it live on? How else can you build a legacy if you're not teaching it to a younger generation?
Right, right, right. Yeah, if you're not passing it on, yeah, you're right. You're right. But I don't think that like what's happening with hip hop is necessarily just with hip hop. I think it's a reflection of what's happening in the black community. I mean, if you look at like say like all the crazy fight videos on World Star,
Mhm.
right? When you look at those kids running around, they fighting this and the other. Look in the background. You don't see any elders. You don't see any adults when this madness is going on, and it's just a reflection of how broken the black community is from recognizing the value of the elders, and the elders also recognizing the value of the youth.
A lot of times they don't want to be elders because when
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
the
yeah,
elders,
that juvenile thing is I mean, at the same time, we've had grandparents getting younger and younger, and so with this reality, it's like um I feel like the wisdom is getting sucked out of our community, you know, and it has a side effect. It does have a side effect, but I feel like the conversation like these are happening. I feel like the conversation is on the table, and I do feel like this has probably been in the last few years the most highest concentration I've ever seen of us just voicing, hey, what's missing? Because I do suggest for people my age and older that they don't keep floating around year after year and not be in touch with any kind of the like any with the youth.
right?
Find some way of making sure keep your ear to the ground, that you stay, in touch because yeah, these millennials, man, it's like, yo, they either are one or two things. They're either extremely way off or they're extremely in tune. I don't really see a lot of middle ground,
Okay.
right? I'm seeing some of these young kids make some of the wisest moves ever, right? Which means they're listening to
Mhm.
somebody who's been there and done that, and they're smart enough to do that. So there's it gives me hope. It gives me hope.
Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been Creative Legacy Art Podcast. If you like this video or if you like this podcast, please subscribe, join, do all the things, and share. Above all, share, so that we can grow as a podcast and get the word out and help as many people as we possibly can. Have a great day, and remember to stay strong, stay positive, and keep creating.